Credits Go on episode 34 with Adam Caro.
How long has it been since you've checked your credit score, Nichter?
Ooh, I'm actually embarrassed to say. I think it was definitely last year, which technically isn't that bad because it's been.
It is, yeah, it's not.
But I think it was like middle of last year.
Okay.
Yeah, middle of last year.
Do you know the ideal amount of time that should pass before you check your credit score?
That's a good question. Well, I do know, and you're definitely the expert in this, maybe once every 4 months. I know you can do at least one for free every year, but there's like 3 different agencies?
Yes.
Okay.
You nailed it.
So
you nailed
once every
4
months.
Trimester, yes. Every 4 months.
Okay.
So the idea behind this is your credit score can be actually your credit score can't be seen, but your credit report can be seen for free on annualcreditreport.com right here.
Right there.
If you go to annualcreditreport.com, what it will do is it will have you select either one of the 3 credit reporting agencies. There are 3 total out there. It is Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. So those are the 3 major credit reporting agencies.
Okay.
Now, do you know the difference between an agency and the credit report?
I do not. No.
Okay.
Please enlighten me.
Do you want me to enlighten you?
Please.
So when you have what are called trade lines open, and a trade line would be a credit card, a car loan, a student loan, a mortgage, those kinds of things. Those are called trade lines.
Okay.
A trade line is an amount of credit that is extended to you by a credit grantor. So that might be MBNA, it might be Chase, it might be CitiCard, it might be your local credit union, it could be Sallie Mae or any of the other student loan servicing companies.
Great Lakes was mine.
Right.
Yeah.
So Great Lakes would be a grantor, and you have a trade line open with them, or many trade lines depending on how many loans you have. The credit reporting agencies report those. They get those trade lines reported to them, and they put those on your credit report.
I see.
So each of the 3 credit reporting agencies put out their own credit report, but all of them are different.
Gotcha. And when you say all of them are different, like the scores can actually be different?
The scores are different. Okay. Typically what they report should be the same,
Yep.
But the reason the actual score is different is there are about 75 different algorithms that are used to calculate what a credit score is.
Okay.
So, Equifax may use a different algorithm than Experian or TransUnion.
Yep.
So typically when you buy a home, what they'll do is they'll do a tri-pull, meaning they pull Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and then they merge. They do a merged credit report pull.
Okay.
And then they use either the average or the middle score.
Got it.
To determine what your credit score is.
Okay. So, I mean, it's kind of perfect. So for someone who has never pulled their credit report, wants to, and knowing that you should pull it at least once every 4 months.
Yep.
It's perfect because there's 3 agencies, 3 times you need to pull it. The question that's right there for me is there one that's better than the other?
No, I would say not. It doesn't really matter who you're pulling from, whether it's Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. Know that they will differ in the score, but that the report should be the same.
Gotcha.
And the reason we want to pull it every 4 months is some crazy statistic, like 85% of all credit reports have something negative that's misreported.
Interesting.
So the reason we're pulling it every 4 months is you want to check, okay, TransUnion first and make sure that everything's reporting to TransUnion accurately. 4 months later, you're going to pull Equifax to make sure that everything's reporting in Equifax accurately.
Yep.
And any corrections you need to make in reporting, you can do that as soon as you pull that report.
Gotcha.
To get a score out of those pulls, it will probably cost you around $5. So when you pull that report out of annualcreditreport.com, the report is free, but the score, if you want that, may be an upcharge. And it's really up to you if you want to you want to get that or not.
Sure.
The easiest way to get your score right off the bat is either go to creditkarma.com or to just ask at your local bank or credit union if they would be willing to share it with you.
Got it. Cool. Okay. Well, I do know probably what's top of mind for our explorers is, obviously what makes up a credit score.
Yeah.
So I know that there's multiple things.
There are.
How many are there? How important is each one of them?
Yep.
And what can we do to improve our credit score?
Sure. So there are 5 elements of your credit score, 5 things that make up your score. There are 2 of them that are most important. The first one is your payment history.
Okay.
So essentially what this means, Nick, is if you are making on-time payments on everything that you have out there as a trade line, then your score is going to be relatively high.
Okay. Regardless of if it's just the bare minimum payment?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Which is a great distinction. So if you have credit card debt and you're making that minimum payment every single month, so long as it's on time, your score still should remain relatively high.
Got it.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to do automation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. The ones that are probably most impactful: missing a car payment, missing a mortgage payment, missing your credit card payment, student loan payment.
Yep.
So for those explorers out there that have student loan debt, you missing one payment can have a fairly detrimental effect on your credit score. And the challenge with scores is that because payment history makes up about 35% of your score, you miss one payment, it's really hard to get back up to a high score. So it's really critical to be paying everything on time.
Yeah. And slight thing I want to add, at least for me, and I think a lot of student loan providers, if you set up an auto pay, it'll actually reduce the interest rate by like 0.25%.
Right.
So not only are you saving money on less interest paid, but you're also making sure that you don't get dinged if you miss a student loan payment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I read a statistic some time ago that said that it was like 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 student loans are in default, meaning they are beyond. 1 out of 4 were delinquent. 1 out of 3 were delinquent. 1 out of 4 was in default.
Wow.
So delinquent means you're 30 days or beyond late. Default means you're beyond 90 days late. But that is a significant amount of borrowers that are either 30 days or beyond 90 days late, meaning their score is probably depressed, right? So this is like tens of millions of people in the United States right now.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're making all those payments on time. It's going to help keep your score high. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the other components?
So the next component is the amount owed.
Okay.
So let's do some math really quick, and I'm going to test your algebra here.
Here we go.
Or maybe it's geometry, I'm not sure what it was. So if you have a $1,000 credit limit on a credit card, and you have charged up $800 on that credit card, what percent of the limit are you utilizing at that point?
80%.
Beep, boop, bop, boop, beep, boop. Yes, 80%. Good job.
80%.
So you're using 80%, which the credit card or the credit reporting agencies view as a somewhat negative thing because you're using an overabundance of what you have available to you.
Got it.
So it may suggest that you're about to abuse credit or that you're not a great user of the credit, a responsible user of the credit.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So that begs the question, what percentage is reasonable or,
Right. So ideally there are 3 percentages that we're going to try and stay below.
Okay.
80% and above is going to ding your credit score.
Okay.
That's a negative. 50% and below will ding your credit score, but not as much. You're using it, and you're probably using it somewhat responsibly, but it still looks like you're using half of what you have available.
Yep.
And the lowest is 30% or below.
Okay.
So you want to be 30% or below on the majority of your cards. So can you see a time where having high balances or exchanging balances would be detrimental?
Say that again.
So if you had a high balance, or maybe you had a number of cards and you were consolidating to one, why might that be a problem?
Yeah, so I have a lot of people particularly in zero balance transfer cards. So for those of you listening and watching, I have a lot of clients who will have a particular amount of debt and oftentimes a very, very high interest rate. And so there are always deals or offers that would allow you to essentially move debt from one credit card to another for no fee, and then also have a 0% interest for 12, 15, 18 months. Now, it is a strategy that, used properly is a really good thing to do.
Yep.
And the question that I always get is, okay, once I move over my credit card debt, I should cancel my other one.
Right.
And that is a very common misconception because people are trying to simplify. It would seem like a reasonable thing to do, but based on what you shared, it's something we don't want to do.
Yes.
So the reason why is, if you have a $1,000 credit card and you have $800 on it, let's just assume, and you open up another credit card that also has 1,000, all of a sudden if you have two credit cards at 1,000, it is now the credit utilization rate is now $800 divided by the 2,000 available,
Right.
which would reduce your credit utilization from 80% to something a lot less.
Something along this.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, if you're in a situation where you just recently did a zero balance transfer or are considering a zero balance transfer, my recommendation would definitely, first of all, talk to someone just to make sure, but keep your credit cards or line of credit, et cetera, open, because it can actually impact and increase your credit score, since the credit utilization is such a large percentage of what
Yes.
makes up the credit score.
Now, here's why, if you're younger, why it's really important to understand this, because the amounts owed makes up about 30% of your overall score. So between your payment history and your amounts owed, it's 2/3 of your score. So if you don't have a very long credit history, then obviously the amounts owed and how often you're making payments, or if you're making them on time, is going to make up the lion's share of your score. The other three components are the types of credit in use. So this would be, they're looking at, do you have credit cards? Do you have a car loan? Do you have student loans, a mortgage? Next is new credit, right? So new credit would be signing up for a brand new card.
Yep.
And this typically hits people at Christmas time, right?
Yeah.
Or holidays, where you're signing up for a new card to get 10% off.
Yep.
And you never use the card, or you use it once and you close it.
Yeah.
Those give you a little bit of a ding. And then length of credit history is the other one. And length of credit history is the reason why 80-year-olds have typically high credit scores, because they've got this really long-standing history. So over the course of time, your score begins to kind of average out, and a 30-day late may not have as much impact as it does when you're, say, 21 or 22. That make sense?
Yeah.
So the
100%.
last three types of credit in use, or the credit mix, new credit, and the length of the credit history.
Yeah. So based on the last one, you talked about length of history or credit. Are there ways that people like myself or even younger can
Yes.
leverage that? Since
Totally. So two ways that I can share with you right now that would be a good leverage point for young people. Number one, if you are willing and your parents are willing and your parents have good credit, this is important, you could get put on as an authorized user on your parents' credit card. The key is to not only become an authorized user, but to also have them report your social security number to put that history, if you will, on your credit report. So this is key. It's not just that you're an authorized user, but you're an authorized user who also has the social security number attached to it, because it will then be reported to the credit reporting agency. Second is this: for a young person that really wants to begin building credit and have some history, you could go to a local credit union, sometimes a local bank, and you could set up a credit builder loan. And a credit builder loan is one where they put $500 in a savings account, put $500 in an account for you, and then they just withdraw or subtract the payment every single month over 12 months. Well, that shows up as a trade line on your credit report and begins building that credit for you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's one way to definitely build the credit. Are there any other ways that come top of mind for people who are listening to say, this is an action I can take today or over the course of the next 1 to 3 months that would boost my score?
Yeah. So, two things. Number one, definitely go check out your report. Make sure there's nothing negative. The things that will bomb a report faster than you can imagine are things like late payments to a credit card, late payments to a car, late payments to student loans. So if you have late pays, make sure you're caught up, because here's what happens, Nick. A lot of people will go 30 days delinquent on a car, and then they never make up that car payment. They just make the next month's car payment. And that shows up as a rolling 30-day late. So now I'm late every single month because I haven't made up that one payment that I missed.
Okay.
That happens a lot on vehicles, happens a lot on student loans. So we need to make sure that you're caught up to date and that your payment history is on time and shows up on time. And then secondly, to boost your score, go out and sign up for a credit card and get a $1,000 limit. But don't use that $1,000 or $800 or $500. Go buy a pack of gum or a tank of gas or whatever. If you want the highest score possible, this is kind of an odd thing, but you're supposed to keep it between 7 and 12% of your limit,
Okay.
of your
Gotcha.
utilization,
Got
right?
it. 7 to 12 for the highest credit score possible.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is a weird thing, but that's their algorithm.
Yeah, because I was going to say, one might think, okay, so then don't spend anything.
Right.
Or, just have that. But however, there is a payment history that's also required.
Correct. Yeah. Those who pay off their credit cards in full every month are called deadbeats by the industry.
Say more about that. Is
So-
that a good thing, bad thing?
It's a bad thing from an industry perspective, good from the consumer perspective. The industry says they're deadbeats. We don't make any money on those people. Personally, I'd rather pay off my credit card every month.
Yep.
But obviously the industry doesn't want you to. They don't make any money that way.
Yeah.
So
Well, this podcast is all about doing and pursuing mastery in our lives, not the bank's lives.
that's
right?
exactly right.
So,
yes.
so be a deadbeat.
We're going to thumb our nose at the bank a little bit. Yeah, you want to be a deadbeat.
Be a
Yes.
deadbeat.
That may be the title of this episode, why you should be a deadbeat.
That's awesome.
Cool. So hopefully this answers some questions for you. If there are more, please send them to us, questions@masteryofmoney.com. We will answer those questions on the show on another YouTube video, and we welcome them. So send them in, questions@masteryofmoney.com. Until next time, when we talk about,
When we talk about
drum roll,
asking the right questions versus always receiving the answers.
interesting. So tomorrow will be all about finding the right questions and asking the right questions.
I wonder what that's going to be about.
Could it be that questions are more important than answers?
It could be, could it?
It might.
Come find out. Oh!
See you tomorrow.